First of all, a lot of halacha questions come up. As you know, I'm not a Rav, and if you ever want a halacha decision, you always have to ask a real Rav. We're Zoicha Nari Shevat to have a number of Rabbanim, Rabbi Zurkim, Rabbi Shmuel ben Shimon, the Rabbanim that were actually the Shimush, they were amongst the bigger Rabbanim, and they can pass on halacha. So my answer is not halacha l'maisa, just based on my little bit of research that I do. If you ever want a comprehensive shiur on any specific topic, then let us know, and one of the Rabbanim or anybody else maybe can put together a shiur. But here it's all meant to be bekitzer, a number of times. Numerous times after the shiur, Bachim come over to me and they tell me that they have something to add, a vart here, a vart there, which is also all good. It's just the whole purpose of this Q&A is to make it be bekitzer. A few lines on each inyan, not speak about it by Riches G'dolim. Sometimes I choose to go a bit off topic, but I'll be right. That's the rule. All right. So this is the first question: is a person allowed to give his heart, donate a heart organ after he dies? It's a very very heavy question, and it's Yid in Israel. Rabbi Yossi Reichik. His brother was passed away now in California, but he passed away a number of years ago. And when he was very ill, and at the time they said that if he's going to take a transplant organ from someone that's alive, he will survive. However, since there's a problem according to Allah, he didn't accept it, then he passed away. As far as I know, that's how the story went. So basically the issue is like this: for a person to take a part of his body and give it to somebody else, so if it does not affect your life and you remain alive with it, and maybe you function more or less the same thing, then it's a big sukkah and a big chesed. However, when it comes to a heart, obviously you can't give your heart to remain alive. So how does it work? The way it works is, if a person passes away, and afterwards they take a limb of his body and give it to somebody else, so over here there's more of a svara that it's mutar, because it's for bikuach nefesh we do anything. So therefore we're even allowed to take a limb of a person that passed away. However, the problem is, first of all, that sometimes the limbs that are taken away, they have it's called their organ consent. People, when you get a license or different government documents, medical documents, you sign that if something happens to you, they can take your body and take parts that they want to donate to other people. So the problem is sometimes they just take your body parts and then just have it in storage, and then after a certain amount of time, there's no need for it, so maybe it expires, whatever it is, they throw it out. And to take a part of a human body and not give it a kever Yisrael, that's a big issue. So that's one major issue, that when people donate their body parts. When it comes specifically to the heart, and if I'm not mistaken, the liver, could be not sure, maybe the brain, I'm not sure about, I think they have brain, but when the heart specifically, the issue is that in order to take a heart and help a person that needs it, you have to take it from a heart that's still beating, that's still alive. So who would ever give their heart if it's still alive for somebody else? So the answer is there are people that are brain dead. And according to medical science, they're for sure going to die within a short amount of time, whether it's a few days or a few weeks. So here comes the shaila. If you have, let's say, if you have two people in a hospital, one person is 90 years old and he's brain dead and he has a few weeks left, and his heart is still pumping. And next to him, there's a young person that's in his 20s, 30s, and he just needs a heart transplant. So the shaila is that just speed up the other guy's death, take out his heart now, and this way we'll end up, we'll save the other person. Otherwise, they're both going to die. This is the shaila. So halachically, obviously, you're not going to kill one person for somebody else. The shaila is, if the person that's brain dead is not considered being really dead. That's a huge shaila. What's the definition of death? At what stage is a person dead? We know that after a person dies, so there's still movement in the body sometimes, resulting in different things. So the question is that considered dead already? What's the definition of death? So the way I understand is most Rabbanim say that it's forbidden to take even though he's brain dead, it's forbidden to take his heart and take it out of him, but some people say it's mutar. I even saw that there's something that they have that you can write consent that I'm willing to give my the body parts to save somebody else on condition that an Orthodox rabbi says it's fine. Meaning when the person is in that situation, so a rabbi will say, okay, now he's considered dead, so you can take his body parts and it'll help somebody else. That's in short the back and forth about it. Again, the pashtus, if a person is dead already, then it's okay. If it actually saves somebody, but if he's still alive, it's pashtus not okay. Huh? Well, in a few minutes after he dies. Or while he's still alive. Huh?
You kill him.
No, they say it's not only killing, it's okay. How do I explain to a non-Jew that a non-Jew cannot become a Jew when there's a lot of people that became Jewish? don't understand the question, but because a non-Jew could become a Jew. I don't understand that. When a person wants to become Jewish, so we know that a goy, when he wants to become a Jew, we don't tell him that he cannot become Jewish. We tell him that it's not a good idea. We tell him that it's going to be very hard. If he has a really hard time, bring him to yeshiva for a few days and know how hard it really is. Nebuch, right? We can't even watch Young Avram Nebuch, so you know how hard it's going to be for him. So Shalom, I'm talking to you. So he's for sure not going to want to become Jewish for those reasons. But you don't lie to him. You don't say he cannot become Jewish. Of course, he could become Jewish. It just is not a shlich. It's not his mission in life. Hashem created him to be a goy. So his job is to serve Hashem as a goy, and mitzvahs, and whatever is included in that. If a person didn't daven shachris yet or mincha, and it's 5 minutes before shkia, what should he do? Halachically, what he should do is he should put on tefillin and daven mincha and say 2 times Shemona Esrei. That's according to halacha. According to halacha, you're not allowed to daven shachris after chatzos, and therefore, according to halacha, that is a simple answer. Mitzad darkei achsidus that people do daven shachris even after chatzos. So mitzad darkei achsidus, even though you daven after chatzos, you don't daven 5 minutes before the shkia. So maybe such a person is probably not asking mitzad darkei achsidus. So I would say that such a person, such a situation, I would tell him to put on tefillin and say Shema and Shemona Esrei, it's 2 times Shemona Esrei, and that would be it. I don't see any. It's practical. You can't do both. So that would be before shkia. So that's what the psak should be. It says in Chassidus that when Mashiach comes, His infinite light will shine in our world. My question is, how can infinite light go into Kelim? So this is a very beginning of Chassidus. Chassidus talks about this all the time. Oidus to tell you, beginning the tikkun. This is the whole meaning of Chassidus, is that when Mashiach comes, there's going to be a revelation of Atzmus, of Niman and Nois, and therefore there's going to be able to be Bli Gvul into Gvul. Just to clarify the question, the Bachar is asking, how can Bli Gvul become into Gvul? Just like you can't fit something large into something small, so something that's Bli Gvul cannot be contained in Gvul. So when Mashiach comes, how can the Bli Gvul light shine into Gvul? That's the whole Chassidus. That they're showing that the Kelim and the Gvul and the Bli Gvul are both going to be included in Atzmus, and that will be revealed. Al derech what it says by the Beis Hamikdash. And the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there was Mokim Ha'orin Eina Min Amida. And it says over there that the Kodesh HaKadoshim was 20 amas wide, and the Aron Kodesh was 2.5 amas, and if you measured from the Aron Kodesh to the wall, you had 10 amas, and from the other side you had another 10 amas. Even though you should have had 22.5 amas altogether, if you measured from wall to wall, you had 20, and wall to each side was 10, and each was 2.5. So how is that possible? It was Mokim and not any Mokim? So Chassidus explains that in the Kodesh HaKadoshim there was a gilui of Atzmus, and we said Atzmus, everything can work together. So also love it, that's what we're going to have, a gilui of Bli Gvul together with Gvul. He's here now, but just 1 second. The question is Rabbi Karpa Beinani. I think so, yeah. What is a Hamsa, and do you believe in it? A Hamsa is those little kameyas, those things that have like 3 fingers and then 2 thumbs sticking out, and an eye inside, and a whole bunch of psukim on top and the bottom. That's called a Hamsa. Hamsa means 5 in Arabic, right? So it's basically a zvula that many Sephardic Yidden use in order to protect it against Ayin Hara. And the question is, where does it come from? Some people say it comes from Muslims, and they claim that it's the hand of what's her name, Fatima, whatever they say. But mashma that it's really coming so there's some research again. I found that the Chida mentions it. The Chida mentions that a person has a palm of a hand with the eye inside it, and that people use it for asgula against Ayin Hara. So mashma that there is a knocking for it in Kedusha, and the poil by the Sephardic Yidden it works. Do I believe in it? So whatever I say that Q&A is not about my personal beliefs or not. So maybe the questions are not relevant. Was the Boston Rebbe friendly with Lubavitch? I asked someone that's a relative of the Boston Rebbe, what he knows. He said he wasn't especially friendly, he wasn't especially not friendly. The Boston Rebbe, his name was Rabbi Horowitz, and he lived in Boston most of his life, and he moved to Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, so there was the Rebbe speaks about Shleimus Haaretz all the time, not giving back land. So Lubavitch and Rabbanim have a whole bunch of meetings where they called other Rabbanim as well to come. So for that he would come. The Boston Rebbe was a very big part of that, helping Shleimus Haaretz. But in general, throughout the years, It doesn't seem like he ever came to the Rebbe, as far as I know. And so he wasn't Dafka against, he wasn't Dafka Ba'adi at this place. When the Shluchim that came to Boston, as far as I understand, the Shluchim were told not to step on his toes, to give him the derech eretz that he needs, because he was basically a shliach. He had his own following, and he was Mekaref people to Yiddishkeit. So they were told he had the kind of limited what he was doing, but the Shluchim were told to give him derech eretz and not to bother him. But as far as I know, there was no necessarily close relationship or negative relationship. You have anything to add? Huh? Ask your father, maybe he knows. Boston, no? Forgot where he comes from. What is the job difference between each category of malachim? Srofim, Chayes, and Eifanim. Yeah, what did the Srofim do? What did the Chayes and what did the Eifanim do? So I'll use the opportunity to share a story that I like to share all the time. That there was one time a Yid that came into this madrash, said about Tshuva, and he comes into a koil and he's trying to learn. And he looks very down and depressed. So the koil comes over to him, asks him what's wrong. So I look around at the people here, there's a big Pekim B'Shas, everyone has learned very well. And I'm sitting myself over here and I barely can read an art scroll. What am I worth, B'chlal? What's my learning going to accomplish at all? So the koil told him a story. The story with the composer Toscanini. Yeah? That there was an Italian composer that he wrote music, his name was Toscanini, and he had a biographer. A biographer means that someone that's writing his life story. And biography, sometimes after a person passes away, they write a biography. Sometimes, as he's alive, someone like a person hangs out with him, and every once in a while they meet up together, and he, so to speak, interviews him about the past few weeks of his life, and then he writes different things. So Toscanini was a chashuv, a person, he had a biographer, and this person called him up one day, I want to meet with you, and I want to have an interview, discuss